Bobby Kennedy Jr., who is seeking the Democratic presidential nomination against Joe Biden, has been caught on leaked video saying that COVID is ethnically targeted to be most serious for blacks and whites and least serious for Ashkenazi Jews and the Chinese. Yeah. Now, we're going to be thorough here, folks. Bobby Kennedy Jr. has put out what he says is a clarifying statement. Okay, we'll look at it. But this is really, really, really crazy stuff. Let's jump into it. Listen extremely closely to what he says. Now, I'll also tell you, this was supposed to be off the record. This is video from a fundraising dinner. It was supposedly off the record, and the person who recorded it has published the video. Okay. I mean, listen, I'm going to pretend I don't know this now. Okay. It was supposed to be off the record and someone published it. That is what it is. Let's listen.
And we need to talk about bioweapons. The level, I know a lot now about bioweapons because I've been doing a book on it for the past 2.5 years.
Okay. I'm not going to interrupt again. This will be my only interruption. Then we'll watch the whole thing. Bobby Kennedy does this all the time. You don't necessarily know a lot about bioweapons because you've been researching it for a couple years for a book. You also could be researching nonsense. So it doesn't really mean anything. Let's listen to what he said.
And you know, the technology that we now have to develop these microbes, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. The Chinese have done the same thing. In fact, COVID-19, there's an argument that it is ethnically targeted. COVID-19 attacks certain races disproportionately. The races that are most immune to COVID-19 are because of the structure of the genetic structure, genetic differentials among different races of the receptors.
By the way, the guy sitting next to him seems very skeptical about what's being said.
The ACE2 receptor. COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
Now you heard that, right? COVID-19 is targeted to attack Caucasians and black people.
The people who are most immune are Ashkenazi Jews and Chinese. But we don't know whether it was deliberately targeted.
Then the woman to his left is like, I'm going to have to take a drink after hearing that.
That or not, but there are papers out there that show the racial and ethnic differential impact to that. We do know that the Chinese are spending hundreds of millions of dollars developing ethnic bioweapons, and we are developing ethnic bioweapons. That's what all those labs in the Ukraine are about. They're collecting Russian DNA.
By the way, continuing to call it the Ukraine at this point in time, but we're not even going to get into that. So we're going to be thorough. I'm going to tell you what his response was to this. In the video, he says, we've put hundreds of millions of dollars into ethnically targeted microbes. There's an argument that COVID-19 is ethnically targeted. And COVID-19 is ethnically targeted to attack whites and blacks, and the people most immune are Ashkenazi Jews, as he says it, and the Chinese. He says it. Now, he drops in this little doubt where he goes, we don't know that it was deliberately done. And then he goes right back to it. Okay? Now, if I were to say to you, imagine I say to you, in New York City, sometimes there's gas boiler explosions, and they blow up a building, and sometimes people die. Imagine that I said to you, listen, these gas boiler explosions in New York City, these look like accidents, but these are targeted assassinations. Many of them are targeted assassinations. And in fact, recently, there were 2 gas boiler explosions at 105th Avenue and 205th Avenue. Now, I'm not saying that was deliberate, but we know that tons of money is being spent to hide assassinations in boiler explosions. If I said that to you, you would obviously deduce that I'm suggesting that those specific gas boiler explosions were targeted assassinations. Does it matter that I quickly drop in? Now, I don't know for sure that it was on purpose. And then go back to my story. That's what he's doing here. Now, let's look at the tweet he put out after. And this is where it goes completely off the rails. And he did this because it went haywire. This is a crazy thing to be saying. He put out the following tweet. Story is mistaken. I have never, ever suggested that the COVID-19 virus was targeted to spare Jews. He literally suggests that in the video. Okay. I accurately pointed out during an off-the-record conversation, he's continuing to use off the record like a shield. Okay, listen, dude, you said it. You want us to forget about it because it was off the record? I accurately pointed out during an off-the-record conversation that the U.S. and other governments are developing ethnically targeted bioweapons, and that a 2021 study of the COVID virus shows that COVID-19 appears to disproportionately affect certain races, since the Furin-Cleve docking site is most compatible with blacks and Caucasians and least compatible with ethnic Chinese, Finns, and Ashkenazi Jews. In that sense, it serves as a kind of proof of concept for ethnically targeted bioweapons. I do not believe and never implied that the ethnic effect was deliberately engineered. That study is here. Well, in fact, he did appear to believe and did imply that it was deliberate, but then he said, I don't know that for sure, and then goes back to his narrative. So we saw the video. We know the tone and the context of the video. Very important addition to this. This is a totally different thing, but just importantly, it also isn't what the paper says. He linked to this paper, and of course, I don't know how many of the people who saw his tweet actually look at the paper. First of all, that paper ignores newer research on the exact same subject, which doesn't even find what this paper finds. But even the paper, if you look at it, don't take my word for it. Check, trust but verify. Fact check me, okay? The paper he shares shows certain mutations might increase COVID severity on average, but the mutations are extremely rare, don't necessarily have the specific ethnic delineation that he implies. They might or they might not, but most importantly, are not statistically significant to the point that it makes any kind of difference from a public health or risk tolerance standpoint, where you might go, well, I'm an Ashkenazi Jew, as he says, so I'll take more risk than if I were white because it's going to target. Look at the paper, okay? Even the paper he's hiding behind off the record, and he's hiding behind the paper. It is a ridiculous thing to say. And I encourage you, whatever you think of Sam Harris, he's put out a short 25, 26-minute podcast episode about Bobby Kennedy Jr., about whether he will or won't have him on the show, and sort of a few different things. It's really good. And Sam does a really good job of explaining that what Bobby Kennedy Jr. is doing is playing into the mood of doubt and distrust. Some doubt and distrust is logical, okay? Some of it is very illogical. He's playing into that mood and then using his things like, this has never been studied. You're not allowed to study it. You look at it, oh, it's been studied. What are you talking about? I'm asking questions you're not allowed to ask. These questions have been asked and they've been answered. Have you looked for the answers? He's playing that game. He's doing it very effectively. And one of Sam's points was there's no reason to have him on to talk about vaccines because he's not an expert on vaccines. He's not a doctor. He's not an epidemiologist. He's a guy who's done research to justify a certain position that he already holds. So I encourage you to check out that episode. This is bonkers stuff. They always will have a defense. Now the defense is, I didn't really mean deliberate, and here's a paper. You certainly seem to imply deliberate, and the paper doesn't say what you say it says. So that's where we are. We will keep following this. This should be a campaign ender, but it is 2023 in the United States, so it'll probably generate some donations, quite frankly. We've talked on the show about how internet service providers have been logging everything their customers do online and selling that data. Tech companies use trackers in websites and apps to collect your data. You can shield yourself from all of it by using a VPN every time you connect to the internet. The VPN I use is Private Internet Access. It's the only VPN that has proven multiple times in court they do not log your activity. Our sponsor, Private Internet Access, hides my IP address, prevents big tech from being able to paint a picture of who I am and what I do online, and it works for all of your favorite streaming platforms like Netflix and Hulu to access shows and movies normally only available in other countries. It's one of the only VPNs that works for peer-to-peer file sharing. And the best part is you can protect unlimited devices with just one account. Going online without private internet access is like leaving your phone unattended in a crowded room. Anyone can just take a glance. My audience gets 83% off. That's just $203 a month, plus 4 extra months for free. Go to piavpn.com/Pacman. The link is down below.